Okay, so that's a bit of a taste of some blues. Today we're going to talk about specifically blues, but we're going to talk about it in the key of E, or E major. Sweet Home Chicago is a great song. It sort of exemplifies everything that we might think about when we're thinking about blues tunes. So let's launch straight into it. The crux of any blues tune is the 12-bar blues pattern. So in this case, we're working in the key of E. So on the A string up here on the 7th fret, that's where we're going to start. That's an E. So we're going to do 4 bars of E. We'll do that 4 times. And then we're going to move down and we're going to play the A, which in this case we're going to do on the E string, but on the 5th fret for 2 bars. So that's 6 bars in total. And then back to the E. And then back down here. Right, and you begin to get a feeling for how this 12-bar blues pattern works. So 1 bar, 2 bars, 3 bars, that's 4 bars of E. Now 2 bars of A, another 2 bars of E, 1 bar of B, 1 bar of A, and then a turnaround, which kind of brings us back to the top again. So in total we should end up with about 12 bars. So a very familiar pattern, and the thing about blues music is once you've got this idea of, I call it like an inverted L. If you think about the fretboard, we've got, they're the 3 notes we're going to use, which from a scale perspective in the key of E is the first. And if we run our scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, A is the 4th. And the only other note we're going to use in this progression is the 5th, which is the B. So really it's, those 3 notes, or which are the same 3 notes, except that we're, instead of playing the A down here, I'm playing it here on the 5th fret of the E string, and the B, instead of playing it here up on about the 9th fret of the D string, playing it on the 7th fret of the E string. You can kind of play these wherever you want. But as long as you get the progression right. And the progression is 4 bars of E, 2 bars of A, back to the E for another 2 bars. Then we've got the B, the A, and then we do the turnaround. And that's going to end up giving us 12 bars. So a very simple pattern. For Sweet Home Chicago, the introduction is, this is before the singing starts, is now notice all I'm doing, keeping my finger on the E, and on my right hand I'm just using these 2 fingers, alternating backwards and forwards. What I'm really working on is keeping all of the notes nice and even, letting each of the notes actually speak out. I'm not trying to rush anything, just trying to give everything a nice even balance. Now I can actually lengthen the notes or shorten the notes just minutely, just by lifting my finger up. So let me show you that. So just by lifting this finger here, I can actually shorten the notes a little bit. Anyway, with this pattern in the introduction of the song. We're just going to play 4 bars of on the E, then we go down to the A, back to the E, then to the B. So the B is on the E string, the lowest string, on the 7th fret, right there, and then to the A, 5th fret, and then we do what's called a turnaround, and that is a series of notes that go over 1 or 2 bars. In this case we play on the A string the 7th fret, 5th fret, 4th fret, 3rd fret, which is C, down to the 2nd fret, and then the kind of the wind up is an open A string, which is open A, 1st fret, and then 2nd fret. So that whole thing that's called a turnaround sounds like this. Okay, so I'm going to put it now in the context of the tune, play along, and let's have a listen. Just the introduction, then I'm going to cut it a little bit short because the verse is a bit different. So that was the introduction. Now, the good news about this song is the verse is a little bit different, but not much. So whenever he starts singing, we're actually talking about the verses. Now, the only difference is that in the introduction, we play the E for 4 bars. Kind of goes on for a long time, right? But in the verse, whenever you hear him sing, what we actually do is we do this. In other words, we do 1 bar of E, 1 bar of A, and then 2 more bars of E, instead of just doing 4 bars of E. That's the only difference. So whenever you hear him sing, you want to do that pattern, the rest of it's the same. And then in the solos, we can kind of go back, when you hear the guitar solo, keyboard solo, etc., you can just go back to the normal introduction riff. And that's really all there is to the whole song. So I'm going to play it again. I'm going to do the introduction, listen for the 4 bars of E, then the rest of the progression, then listen to what happens when he starts singing. You'll hear me play 1 bar of E, 1 bar of A, and then back to the E, and then the rest of the progression. One bar, 2 bars, A, 1 bar of B, 1 bar of A, 2 bars of B, So you get the idea. The song goes on for quite a long time, and it's just really kind of varying around those moves. So the important thing to remember with the blues, we're trying to get all the notes nice and smooth. You know, I'm trying to keep my hand movements fairly minimal, trying not to move around. Of course, when we do the, of course you have to move for that, but in the main body of the song, not a lot of movement going on. So really concentrate on letting those notes ring out. Try and keep your left hand as smooth as you possibly can, and with your right hand, try and keep those fingers moving like this. Now I know when I played it I was kind of a little bit weird with my left hand. I was doing things like, you know, that look like this. Normally you wouldn't do that. The only reason I'm showing it this way is so you can clearly see what the notes are. Normally you want to keep all your fingers across the strings. Of course they're not going to be touching all the strings, but a position like this. So that's really what your left hand should look like, not okay. That's really just to show you what the notes are. But keep your fingers up here, relaxed, and good luck with the tune. If you can learn this one, then really it applies to so many other blues tunes. There can be variations on how quickly they move from one chord to another, but at the end of the day, they all follow this simple 1, 4, 5 pattern. And if you've got any questions about what the 1, 4, 5 thing is, have a chat to me in your lesson, and we can go over it again. Very simply, it's thinking about the key of the song. In this case, we're playing in the key of E, and we go through each note of the key. 1 is E, 2 is F sharp, 3 is G sharp, 4 is A, 5 is B, etc. So, you know, 6 is C sharp, and we can go all the way through the scale that way. So it's 1, 4 and 5. And I'll see you next lesson. Thanks again.